All right, fastest 15 minutes on the internet, fastest 15 minutes in social media. My name is Judson Powell. All right, got a couple of things to talk about, but I want to tell y'all a story. And the story involves one of the reasons why I actually have an attribute that was given to me um, by some Africans uh, way a long time ago. Like when I was 9 years old, and I was in a extended family called the Moja Abagunde. And in the Moja Abagunde, we learned about self, and so that's why I always talk about having knowledge of self and knowing self and all that kind of stuff. And it was those values that were instilled in me. And I had a lot of great mothers, and I had a lot of great fathers, because it takes a village to raise a child. Um, and I never forgot that. And so all throughout my life, at every turn, like I've always had like a mentor or somebody that I could run stuff by or talk to. And there have been a couple of times in my life um, where I had to kind of go out at it on my own. But even when I went out at it on my own, I still had like a thing of knowledge and wealth of knowledge, or and wisdom, and some wisdom, depending on what. Well, one of the main things that really influenced my life was my grandfather, which is why, even though I had African attributes, I never changed my name, because I admire my grandfather and I admire my father. And so a friend of mine on one of the social media platforms was like, well, and the little girl that got killed and was 16 years old, and the first thing was like, where was her father? And I don't think we realize, how much all of these things matter. You have to understand that mankind is trying to destroy humankind. It is trying to destroy the natural laws of the Most High. That's why they don't want us to talk about green stuff or talk about saving the planet or saving the world, because their entire thing is to destroy the world and to destroy all of those that want to make the world as the Most High wants it. And so we look at some things, and you could tell naturally by common sense that certain things are of the Most High and certain things are not. And one of those things, happens to be just wisdom and knowledge. And what mankind tries to do is they try to go against the wisdom and knowledge of the Most High. Just like if you want to defy gravity, you have to have some type of protocol in order to defy gravity, or else everything that you put up will fall back down to the ground, because that is, and no matter what you want to say, that is part and parcel to the Most High. So anyway, everybody has like certain things in their life, but if you don't have those things, then you make mistakes, or you do things that are against nature or against the laws of nature. So anyway, so my grandfather, and I remember, because I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Have a lot of fond memories of Detroit, but as time went on, Detroit just like kept going down and down and down and down and down. And right now, I don't want to talk bad about it, but anyway, so I was doing a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have done. And I was hot-headed, and I would fight at the drop of a hat and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, my grandfather, when I was about ready to graduate from high school, my grandfather told me he needed to talk to me. And so, because that was like to me, that was like a big deal. Like you've been summoned by the king. It was like, that's the kind of deal it was to me, because I just admired him that much. He was a lawyer, and so all of that kind of stuff. But I wasn't acting like the grandson of a lawyer. I was acting like the grandson of somebody that was locked up in Jackson prison. So he calls me to his office, and so I'm like there, and he tells me in no uncertain terms. Oh, and by the way, this was a man that worked every day. He worked every day until the Lord took him home. The Most High took him into the universe, right? And so he says to me, he says, "What are you planning on doing with your life?" And at that particular juncture, I was like, I'm just going to play music and, have fun and blah, 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 whatever. And so he looks at me and he says, and this is the pivotal point in my life. He said, "You going to Hampton before somebody kills you." And I was just like, what? And then he starts talking to me about Hampton University. And he's like, I went, because I didn't know it. I never really talked to him about that kind of stuff or nothing like that. And he never really said that much to me. And so he says, "You're going to Hampton University and you need to get out of Detroit before somebody kills you." And so, and so I'm like, wow, and then he starts telling me about Hampton, his home by the sea, and, how he used to have to catch the ferry across the bay every time he got near there, because he was from a little place called Newsoms, Virginia. In fact, I think Newsoms at this point and at this juncture in time still only has about 200 residents. And so, and this was like something, and then I didn't know any of my relatives on his side of the family because he never talked about them. But one thing that I do remember, like hanging out with my friends and stuff like that, none of us never thought, because there were so many murders in Detroit all the time, none of us really thought that we would live long enough for anything to happen. We all thought, all of us thought that, I guess all of us thought that, that there was no way out of the streets. See, because my grandfather, he grew up in Virginia, so he never had to transverse the streets. And my dad, he didn't either, because he was an educated black man, and, he had a corporate job. And so because he had a corporate job, that kind of set us a difference. But the people in the street were still the people in the street. And I remember when he would talk about, my dad would talk about when he was growing up, and he would talk about the gangs and stuff like that. But, at that point, it wasn't as bad. And so he was able to, because you were basically able to live your life outside of the gangs. But when I was young, you had to try to keep out of the gangs. That was your whole thing, was to keep from getting killed, keep from being in the gangs, because undoubtedly, if you got locked up in the gangs, it was just like going to prison. That's why I said locked up like that, because it was like you were going to prison, because there was no way out. The only way you could get out of the gang is either you leave or you get killed. And when I say leave, you had to leave, like go someplace totally different, like witness protection type leave. So anyway, so he says, "You're going to Hampton." So, and at that point, I had been on I had gone on vacations and stuff like that with my family. But the one thing but I had never really left out of Detroit, and been out of Detroit for a long time. So the first place that I ever went, and I left and I went out of Detroit, was Hampton. And I remember the first day, that I got there, and I was like amazed that there were like black men that were just like, that were like friends, that were just like, hey, what's up? And and I remember getting out the shuttle, because I took the shuttle from the bus station to the campus, because I caught the bus down there, and I had all my stuff with me, and they dropped me off in the middle of campus at this place called Ogden Circle, which is in front of Ogden Hall. And I was like, wow, and I was looking, and the other thing is, I remember the air was different. It's like the air smelled fresh. And I was like, because when you live in a city, I don't know how many of y'all really like take time to smell the air or whatever. But the bottom line is, it's like even the air was different. Everything was different. And so then these two dudes, they come up to me, and I got Detroit. I'm thinking like, this is like Detroit. So dudes, because in Detroit, unless you know somebody, you really don't speak. And then when you speak, you get, you got to be like, you got to have your defenses up. And so, these guys, they could, like, hey, you need some help? I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. And I'm sitting up there. So then I picked up, because I had a trunk. And I picked up this trunk. And I remember it was so heavy, after I got started. And then the same dudes, they rolled up behind me. And so I'm thinking, because I got that Detroit mentality, I'm thinking these dudes are trying to rob me or something, right? I'm like, okay, it's like I get down here, it's just like the same deal. But it really wasn't. They was like, we was just sitting back and see how long it was going to take you before you realized that you really needed help. So the moral to the story is, you really need help. And we need help right now. They just killing us. It's like, it's uncanny. And it's like I keep telling y'all, this is a ritual. This is ritualistic. These police officers, why do you go someplace where a 16-year-old girl or a 20-year-old guy, or all of these are young people. These are babies. Look, I'm almost 60 years old. These are babies. They haven't even begun to even think about living their lives. And not only do they have to deal with the mean streets, but they got to deal with the police too. You got to deal with everybody. So for somebody to get to my age, it's a miracle. It really is. It's a miracle. So that's why I do what I do, because I just want to give anybody that I can hope. Anybody that I can, influence or encourage or whatever, we got to start encouraging each other, because these devils, they not going to stop. And that's why, they are devils, because they not built like us. They not built like us. And when we always asking about different things, why is it that we're like this or we're like that or whatever? Because and once again, I keep on telling y'all, it's our nature as children of the Son, as the children of the Most High. We don't have the same nature that mankind has. We are human. We are the people of color. And we don't go around, and all the stuff that we've learned, all the evil that we've earned or that we've learned, where does it come from? It doesn't come from us. So, and change, change is difficult. It was difficult for me, because I sat there, and it took me about a year before I realized that, hey, I was in someplace different, and that I didn't have to keep the same mentality, because, and in fact, it was like the first time in my life when I could let my guard down. And I was just like, man, I don't have to be worried about, whether or not I'm going to get shot or stabbed, or I got to fight these dudes out of here or whatever. And dudes would just fight you for just being on the wrong street, or being in the wrong neighborhood, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And dudes would want to fight you. And that was us fighting each other. So we got to stop fighting each other, and we got to turn towards our common enemy. Let me say that again. We got to stop fighting each other, and we got to fight our common enemy. The laws, everything are against us. I'm a lawyer. I know. The laws are not in favor of us. They weren't written for us. They don't care about us. And that's why they just pull up places and start opening fire. They shoot somebody because they know they're not going to jail. We got one conviction out of all them people that the police have killed, and all the people, and I'm talking about since we've been here, all of the people that have been killed, and we basically got what? One conviction. The Derek guy, can't even pronounce his last name. Don't even care about his last name. But do you understand what I'm saying? We got to unify. We can't keep on being split apart. Fastest 15 minutes has been up. I love y'all.